doing.
also be taped, or is just a live thing?
This is being taped as we speak.
Yeah,
You can say hi. People, someone's already seeing.
Okay.
All right. But I'm just waiting to also share this for other people to see. So, all right, see, 2 people already here. Say hi, everyone. This is Mr. Seth Mandell. We are Rabbi Seth Mandell. Right? And you were Rabbi Hillel for many years.
I was Rabbi Hillel at both Penn State and University of Maryland.
Right. So, and here, so people that follow you will be able to. Yeah, what a privilege. Again, that's you. Mandell Foundation. All right, let's get going. Rabbi Mandell, I know you for many years. When your son Koby was a classmate of my sister Shira's many years ago. And we both live in the same geographic area here in Israel. I don't know how many, everyone watching, some people are familiar with Israel, some people are not. We live in Gush Etzion. How many years have you been living in Israel already?
Our 20th anniversary will be in August. So
20 years.
1996 we moved here.
20 years, wow. And I know that before you moved to Israel, as a Hillel rabbi for a number of years in America.
That's right. Well, I was first in Israel for 15 years.
Really?
That's right.
I didn't know that.
After we got married, my wife encouraged me to go back to become a Hillel director.
Okay.
We landed at Penn State.
Okay.
And then 2 years later, we went to the University of Maryland, spent 5 years there.
Wow. So I didn't know that. So I would love to talk to you about Hillel one of these days, but not for now. Not now. So now we're sitting here today, those of you who are not familiar with Seth and Sherry Mandell and the Koby Mandell Foundation. Koby was their son who was killed by terrorists 15 years ago. And the anniversary, if I'm not mistaken.
The English anniversary, the Gregorian calendar anniversary was yesterday. The Hebrew date is about 2 weeks. It's the 15th of the year, 2 weeks from now.
I personally very clearly that I was actually living in Riverdale, New York with my wife at the time. But I found out about it because my sister, 8th grade.
8th grade.
8th grade, when they were in 8th grade. So I remember that time period very clearly. Now, you and your wife, you have a very special story because you took your loss and you used it. How did you react? How did the Koby Mandell Foundation come about, and why? And because you went through something very, very hard, very, very hard.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of people like you who I speak to who said, I remember. It was a very, very big event. It was an event.
Right.
It was on the front page of every newspaper in the United States, and of course, every newspaper in Israel. The funeral was actually on national TV in Israel. So,
really?
Yeah, so it was really big. There were 10,000 people at the funeral.
Wow.
Remember, it was 2 boys. It was Koby and his friend Yosef.
Right.
It was in the very beginning of the Arab uprising. They were the 62nd and 63rd people killed.
Wow.
And in the end, there were over 7 years, there were over 1,300 people killed. So it was the moment was such that, as we said during the Shiva, the morning period, we think that the penny has finally dropped in the outer world of what's going on here.
Right. We always say that.
We always say that. That's
say
correct.
That.
It was partially, and in many cases, partially true. It's a gradual process before people understand what's really going on, because people don't live here.
Right.
They don't live in Israel. They hear only the bad,
right.
And so much good and so much ordinary life that goes on,
right.
And they don't realize what's going on because they're simply not attuned who live here.
Right.
So when we were told about what happened, my wife fell to the ground. I walked over to a corner, kicked a chair, came back and saw my wife on the ground, and she was surrounded by her friends. and they were stroking her and holding her. And I looked down on her, and she said, "How are we going to get through this?" I said, "We're going to get through this because we have 3 other children. That people who killed Koby destroyed their lives as well." I knew that I was going to do something because it was such a big event,
right.
and I knew what it was like. And I had been a Hill director. I knew I was going to do something. But we found that we as parents got all kinds of attention. We got all kinds of support, whether it was psychological, whether it was communal. We noticed that we're kind of both the day, morning period and afterwards. They really didn't have the facilities or the training to deal with bereavement.
Right.
Their friends didn't really know what to do with it. They were there for them, but they really didn't know what to say or what to do. And they were as isolated, or more than we were. And we thought what we needed to do was I must tell you that my 2 oldest children went to Camp Mosheva that summer. And we found that the Camp Mosheva environment was really a very beautiful place for them to be. They felt completely isolated. Here were all these kids having a great time, and they were thinking about Koby. My son, who was 12 years old, called us up and said, every place I go, I start to cry. Every place I go, I keep thinking about Koby. Would love to be here. So we understood something. We understood that this is an environment where children can feel safe, where children can have a good time, a camp environment. That our kids are not like other kids. Our kids have an isolating kind of experience.
Right.
And we thought to get children who were involved in terror, who had lost somebody to terror, and bring them together in an environment where they can be themselves, where they can have fun, where they can have a respite from the daily kind of pressures that they get from their parents, from their schools, from their communities. So they could be like everybody else. For the only time during the year, that would be what we could do in Koby's name. Koby was a kid who wanted to help other kids. As I mentioned before, there was a kid we met last night, my wife's book book signing, that came to us, and he said, it was at the Shiva, days after Koby was killed. He said, Koby and I were in gym class together last week. He said, it was volleyball. He said, I'm not very good at volleyball. Koby was one of the best players in the class.
I remember that. I remember he was very athletic.
That's right. That's right. So he said to me, he said, at the end of the class, the coach told us that we could pick anybody that we wanted to pick, and we could play volleyball with for the last 10 minutes of class. And the kid started crying, and he said, Koby picked me. And my daughter said, Koby picked him because he was a small, clearly not a good athlete. Right. An 8th grader who was in class can pick the best. Usually picks the best player they can find. Their buddies, right? Their athletic buddies. Right? He said, but Koby, we know, of a kid, and we later found out that on the basketball court and soccer court in Toccoa, he would always bring the little kids in. So we wanted to do something in his spirit. We wanted to do something that he would like. And we thought that, this camp for kids, to make kids feel better about themselves, that would be really the direction to go. And that's really why we started the camp, to do something in Koby's spirit, and something that would help somebody that would help both to keep him in the public mind, that we believe that when a kid smiles at the camp or makes a psychological breakthrough or makes a friend, somehow that affects Koby's soul in a positive way. And we still believe that, and we still work with that. So it keeps us connected to him. It keeps us connected to the world, and it makes him, what I like to say, one of the most famous, if not the most famous, 13-year-old Jewish boy in the world.
Wow.
Yes, so all of those things.
Right.
That's right.
So those who don't know, or just from hearing, you can understand that the Koby Mandell Foundation, one of their major projects, and they do a lot of projects, not just this one of the major projects is Camp Koby, our summer program. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a moment, but before we go into talking about Camp Koby, I want to ask you a different question. How being involved with the Koby Mandell Foundation in memory of your son and all of the Camp Koby and all these activities helped you and your wife?
Well, I think the first thing is that it keeps us connected. to Koby, because we do believe that the positive things that happen are connected to him. More important than that, I think, is that when we do something in Koby's name, it gives meaning. And you know, all parents want to do the best they can for their child.
Right.
They want to have the best education. They want the best clothes, the nicest neighborhood they can. What can we do for Koby is to give meaning to what happened to him. And that's really what it's about. It gives us a sense that this was not for nothing, that this was something that turned into tremendous good. And it creates, or it changes the darkness. Is going to be complete. You've lost your 13-year-old son. That darkness turns into a little bit of light. Everything that happened to him had meaning, and it's not for nothing. And that's really what I think many, many people are about. And we were fortunate to have the fortunate to have the abilities to be able to make it happen. So that's really, I think that really, on a daily basis, keeps us moving, keeps us going, and really has created a new life for ourselves, and for our family.
Now, I understand that this year for Camp Koby, there's such a demand, more than what you expected.
Well, we just had a special grant, through a special grant, had a 2-day camp in Eilat for 2 days before Pesach, and we got the special grant because we were 50 kids short in terms of our funding, meaning that we had 50 kids who had signed up who we couldn't take. So we understand that there's going to be a surge of interest, a surge of people coming in for this camp this year, and we simply don't have enough support to bring everybody that can in. I must say that, last night at my wife's speech, Rachel Frankel,
she's awesome.
She introduced her, and she mentioned something we don't usually focus on, but I think if she focuses on it, we can focus on it. She's the only organization that doesn't only work with terror victims. We feel that we have a mission as well to work with people who have lost immediate family members, children, to other.
Not just terror.
Not just terror.
Oh, very important.
Car accidents, to cancer,
other tragedies,
other kinds of tragedies, and nobody else does that.
Interesting. And is it specifically families that lost children?
No, families who lost anybody. A lot of them, in fact, are orphans who have lost their parents, sometimes both parents, in a car accident, something like that.
Okay.
So we work with orphans as well. And she said, there is a hierarchy sort of tragedy.
Right.
These are her words. It's the army. It's terror. It's other things. And what about the person who loses somebody to suicide? We have a number of kids in that situation, and they are just left behind. Nobody knows what to do with them either.
Right.
So we have really today a universe which is so wide in Israel that we could have 1,000 kids at the camp. We have 400. Right? We could have 1,000 if we had enough support. What we want to do is we want to take the extra kids from the recent wave of terror and other things, and open it up. And that takes money, unfortunately. So we have instituted a matching grant kind of internet campaign called causematch.com at Koby Mandell. It's causematch/
at Camp Koby.
At Camp Koby. So at Camp Koby. And it's very simple. The more support we find, the more kids that we can take. I should point out that in the camp itself, not only is it the most fun that we can make it, and we go to amusement parks and they play sports. They do everything that an American camp like Camp Mosheval would do. But they become each other's best friends because they share something.
Right.
And thirdly, there's some therapy in every camp.
Right, I was going to ask about that.
So it's a framework where these kids can come together and they know that this is a place where they can talk to each other. And that's the most important. The only way to heal is to talk to talk it out with people who understand. And that's something that is difficult for someone who's bereaved. Psychologists tell us two things. First of all, they'll tell us that the most difficult, or one of the most difficult parts of bereavement is isolation. experience, which is shaking the foundations of who you are, and you can't talk to your best friend about it because the person has no idea what it's about. So these kids come together in this camp, and they are able to talk to somebody else who understands.
Right, they're not alone.
You know, so they'll walk up to a new kid in camp and they go, "Hi, my brother was good. What happened to you?"
Just like it's
just like it's a known, the most healing. It makes it
normal. It's all
different,
right?
Right. So I think that's really what it's about. And the more kids that we can do this, so I think the more advantage it is to the Jewish people and to the people of Israel, because it makes it something which is no longer hidden. It makes it this part of society's conversation.
Right.
That's right. And as everybody will tell you, this kind of transparency is what people make people able to move forward with it.
Right. And I guess you could also say, like, even terror should end, right? One day the terror should end, but there always will be tragedies, and there always will be kids going through this who need the type of functions that you have set up through Camp Koby and the Koby Mandell Foundation.
I must tell you, by the way, that my wife works with 100 bereaved women, both widows and bereaved mothers, which we do ongoing programming for them in the Jerusalem. Primarily Jewish, again, also because of logistics and financial issues. We just opened 3 new groups for widows since we've opened it up to others.
Wow.
We now have 3 groups of 10 widows who we meet weekly with a therapist.
Wow.
To talk about what happened to them. My wife is doing a program, again, a guest house in the Isha guest house in Beit Shemesh has said, listen, you can have our guest house.
Right.
So we're doing a program for 20 new bereaved mothers and widows.
Wow.
Next week it is, something like that. My wife is very busy doing that kind of. It's also important because we believe that women are really the leaders in the family in terms of grief.
Right.
How the family will go will, in large part, depend upon how the mother deals.
So therefore, you're putting the focus on giving strength to the mothers.
That's right, and tools, not only tools to be able to deal with it.
Right.
That's right.
I hope you're as inspired as I am by hearing Rabbi Seth Mandell speak. I'm going to put in a little anecdote, if you allow me. Life is not always easy. Life is not always easy, and some of us are given bigger challenges than others, given huge challenges. And the true test in life, how people deal with those. And the way you and your wife have dealt with your tragedy, not just to allow yourselves to deal, but you've taken from your experience and your pain to help so many other experiencing it. That's an inspiring story in and of itself, of just how best any one of us could go through life, from small to hard tragedies, because everyone goes through whatever hardships. So if anyone can take anything from this, strength that you have within yourself to overcome and make a difference in your life and everyone else around you you're going through. So with that, I just want to remind everyone, the Koby Mandell Foundation, Camp Koby. I will put the link up on the post. It's the causematch.com/Camp Koby in order to make a donation. If any $1 you give is automatically doubled to $2, so give 100, you automatically give 200. Give 500, you automatically give 1,000. Families and children and mothers and are gaining from this. So please.com/Camp Koby. I will put it up there. Rabbi Mandell, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
All right.